Welcome to Wealth Secret Revealed. I am your host, Dion Sylvester, coming to you live and direct in internet land. Guys, I want to talk to you today about the SIT challenge, where we talk about saving, investing, and tithing, with the focus on the I, being the investments. And today's topic, what we're going to talk about, is the demise of the middle class and what it means to you. Let me ask you guys a simple question. Do you feel richer than you were 20, 30, 40, or even 50 years ago? Or do you feel poorer? If the answer is that you feel poorer, you're not alone. A recent survey from PW Research Center reveals that a majority of Americans feel life is worse off than it was 50 years ago. 41% say life is worse, and 37% say life is better. Let's take a look back. Let's go back about 50 years. My grandfather, he wasn't poor by economic standards by no means. He was the head of his engineering department in Chicago, and he had a steady income. He had a good amount of savings, he had a home, he had a pension, and in other words, he was your typical member of the middle class. Like most people, my dad bought into the American dream of a home, a job, a car in a driveway, and a family. Most people in his generation worked hard to attain the status of comfortable, middle to upper class. And at the time, if you were frugal and saved your money, you could achieve that status. At the same time, as he got older, my granddad didn't adjust to the changing rules of money. Rather, he stuck to what he always knew, and that was the old rules of money. Later in his life, his lack of financial knowledge resulted in him losing nearly everything through some bad investments. His lack of understanding about money and how it worked is the reason why I kind of call him the poor guy. Now, like Robert Kiyosaki, there was a rich dad and a poor dad. I was fortunate enough to be able to have two as well. We'll call him rich dad, as in Robert Kiyosaki's words, he was planning for 50 years in the future. So he saw what was happening with money, and he began to make preparations. He was already putting the new rules to money at work. As a result, he grew his business empire and his wealth substantially in his much later years. Now let's talk about the disappearing middle class. If he was alive today, my granddad would have struggled financially, even without his bad investments. He most likely would have not been comfortable. Today, the middle class is quickly disappearing. All the ways my granddad achieved a level of financial comfort no longer work in today's economy. Today, savers are losers. Houses are worth less and less, and there's no pension, no essential goods for life, and everything's getting more and more expensive. Today, inequality is higher than it's ever been. In short, the middle class is screwed. Right now, there's two classes of people. For a while now, we've been saying that the middle class would disappear, and that we would have only two classes of people in the United States, and that's the poor and the rich. As Market Watch reported, in the United States, the rich appear to be leaving the middle class behind. The American middle class made up just 26% of income in 2014, down from 46% in 1979. Adjusted for inflation, according to a separate report released just in June last year by the Urban Institute, a nonprofit and nonpartisan policy group, the urban middle class controls 63% of all income in 2014, up from 30% from 1979. And it isn't because more middle class Americans are richer. Middle income households made up 120.8 million of the population, almost as much as the upper middle class and lower incomes combined. Translation: the rich are getting richer and the poor not getting a damn thing. The middle class is disappearing. In fact, here in America, the incomes have shrunk or stayed flat in 81% of the country since 2005 to 2014, second only to Italy in the entire world. So I say all that to say what in this episode? You have two choices, and you only have two choices. You can become rich, or you can become poor. For my granddad, it wasn't his financial status that made him poor. It was his mindset. He didn't understand how money worked. He thought investing was risky, and he valued security over everything else. So he chose to save his money work as an employee and rely on his pension for retirement. Today we have no pensions, and 401k is really not working for us. When that didn't work, he tried to make it up with risky investments that didn't pan out. His lack of financial intelligence and his inability to grasp the rules of money have changed, left him broke and regretful. The question that I have for you today is, do you want to be like my granddad, or do you want to be like my rich business-minded dad? If you want to be like my granddad, it's easy enough. Keep blindly doing what you've always been told to do. Save money, get a good job, start a 401k, buy a house, and invest in a diverse portfolios of stock, bonds, and mutual funds. Savers are losers, and it's easy to be a loser in today's financial world. If you want to be like my business-minded rich dad, it's going to take a new mindset and a lot of work. This work begins